We're thrilled to have, as I said earlier, Keith Draper with us from World Relief. For the last 35 years, Keith has been doing ministry in the Chicagoland area. So as Keith comes up to share more about the ministry of World Relief, how we can serve, help, and participate in that, I just wanted to say that I had the privilege of spending a few hours with Keith. A little over a month ago, I got the grand tour of the World Relief building.
Even the catacombs.
The catacombs, yes. And I couldn't be more excited to have this opportunity to connect and serve with a ministry like World Relief that serves the vulnerable, that serves the needy. And Keith is going to share more about this, but the way that they do it, so biblically thoughtful, so relationally holistic, a ministry that cares for the whole person. I'll stop going on, but I'm very excited that Keith is here to share with us, so thanks for being with us.
Man, you guys have raised the bar with all the introductions. I feel like I've got to live up to it now, so.
All right, so let me just start with this question. Some of us might be well acquainted with World Relief, whereas others of us less so. Could you give us an overview of what World Relief is and what you all do?
Sure, Nick, happy to do that. We're a global, local Christian organization, and our mission is really to empower the local church to serve the vulnerable. We believe that our mission really is complete when God's people communicate the whole gospel to the whole person. So for the whole gospel, we believe that it's important that what we do in word and in deed, and we call that integral mission. But we also are committed to the whole person according to what the Bible says about us, that we are body, soul, and spirit, that we're created in the image of God with dignity and worth, that we have gifts and talents that we bring to the table, while we also look at meeting real needs that people have that are unmet. We're also a church that fulfills your mission, we believe, and motivations for serving the vulnerable, and that is that you might be able to show compassion to others, to the least of these, and really, as Matthew 25 says, to the least of them serving him. And even as Jesus modeled that in the parable of the Good Samaritan, we also believe in providing you mission opportunities to be Jesus' witness in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth, according to Acts 1, and to make disciples of all nations, according to Matthew 28. We are also thirdly committed to really growing a multi-ethnic community, like how the church was born at Pentecost and really completed in John's vision when all nations, tribes, and tongues are worshiping around Christ's throne in Revelation 7.
So one thing I noticed, this is a slight curveball, hopefully not too much of a curveball, but on the website, it talks about 3 values. And at least if I have them right here, it's you talked about the first one a little bit, but church-centered, holistic, and sustainable.
Yeah.
Could you enumerate on that just a little bit, like what that looks like for us and why those are important, maybe?
Really, I'm glad you asked that. I feel like I was trying to cut short, but I'm happy to bring that into this. Really, for us, that sustainability is really around helping those that we serve thrive and not just survive. And to empower them and not enable them, so helping, not hurting. And we do that really by tracking their progress in key areas, looking at housing, looking at their language proficiency, employment, transportation, community connections, total health, finances, parenting, and their legal status.
Super helpful. Some of us, like me, have, kind of been around Trinity for a couple years. So I know that when we talked, Trinity has had a relationship with World Relief in the past. So I wonder if you could maybe speak a little bit to that, or some of our past connections and things we've done in the past that people may not be aware of.
Sure, I might see some eyes lit up when I mention a name or two. Heather Spinagle was really the person on the front end that built the relationship with you all. She was a member here, and I think her family ended up going out on mission, and part of the journey toward that for them was really to begin working with our staff as an English teacher in what we would call focusing on our gateway students, and that's students that are pre-literate coming our way. So we're not only teaching them English, but helping them to learn to read and write. And we even have curriculum that's used by other organizations from what we've developed on that end. So that really is probably our entry point. I would say beyond that, you as a community have served. Some of you have served individually and volunteered with us, and some of you have done that as groups, community groups, small groups together, helping serve, and we really provide both of those kinds of opportunity. You've given financially, and you've given in-kind gifts. Many of the in-kind gifts that we collect are things that help set up a household for a family to start life over in this area. And then you've attended learning events. So Jeff is a learner, and he's helped us to better understand those we serve and also to help advocate for their needs. So those are all parts of ways that you've really helped us and been a part of what we've done through the years. So, yeah.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening right now with World Relief and with refugees? So what's going on with certain groups? Who's coming in? Where are they coming from? Some of that.
I think to answer it probably in a complete way, I would say really 3 levels.
Okay.
First, really as a country, we're really rebuilding a pipeline for resettlement, and that's really to address the 100 million people who are displaced in our world today. At one point, we were at about 9,000 people resettled in the United States. Our highest time was under President Ronald Reagan, and we're really working back toward that goal of 100,000 people. That's determined by the U.S. government with the President's determination each year. On a global level, World Relief is a global local organization, as I mentioned. So globally, we're really about creating what we call church empowerment zones in different countries to try to address different needs. Really, a simple way of saying that is that we want to make the church the hero in what we do, and we believe that sustainability to the work is really with the local church, not with some outside organization. So really, as you see needs around the world, we're an org that has a reputation of coming and bringing churches together to try to look at those needs. For us locally, what that means is we currently have 400 partner churches that work with us here in the Chicagoland area, and that allowed us to serve over 7,000 people this past year from over 100 nations, and we'll average 100 to 135 nations a year that are served, so it's kind of like a seaport experience. In terms of very specifically what that looks like locally, I would say that we're really working among 3 sets of people who have been displaced. The first was really a new one for us, and that's evacuees. So if you may remember, back in August, 77,000 people were quickly evacuated from Afghanistan because of family ties or connections to serving our country and our troops. And so we were activated as a part of responding to that need, and we've worked with over 300 families currently that have been welcomed here and really served by local churches. Asylees, right now we're in the midst of working with asylees primarily from Ukraine. So we're receiving about 30 people a week coming through our doors that have made it to the U.S. and are trying to seek asylum in this country because of the war that's going on in Ukraine right now. And then I would say the third would be refugees. And these all seem like terms. I hope I'm not in the weeds here too much. Evacuees are quick out. Asylees, they basically had to get out and now are seeking to prove that they had threat to their life. Where in the third category, for refugees, they're people that are able to prove their credible threat before they enter the country. And sometimes that means being at a refugee camp for many years. So some of those that we would work with refugee-wise would be people from regions like Southeast Asia, Central Africa, and the Middle East. Southeast Asia would be places like Nepal and Myanmar. Central Africa, places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea. And in the Middle East, really with the large displacement from Syria that has allowed people to be vetted and able to come here as refugees. So, hope I've answered that question.
No, that's super helpful. Where are these people being placed, like locally in our region? Like, where might we run into someone, or they're living down the street from us or something like that?
Yeah. Sometimes there's a wondering of, are they just kind of coming in privately through it? We really work with not only churches, but with the community and organizations. So mayors of towns, school districts, all of those things. So we don't just kind of drop in people It's really a work of understanding where a community is willing to help. But we've changed a lot, I would say, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we really were trying to put people together in communities where they could be close to someone who spoke their language, who understood their culture. And so that made us very centralized, really near our services that are based in our 3 offices in Albany Park, in Aurora, and in DuPage County, currently officed in Carroll Stream. But because of the pandemic, there's really been such a huge need for affordable housing. Housing has gone up exorbitantly. If you are paying rent, you may have known those kind of rent increases. So finding affordable housing and also finding affordable space. With the moratorium on evictions that happened, there were very few places available. So our model has really had to change much more toward trying to find it where we can, rather than assuming that we can get a group of houses in one place or another. But I would say to you, we have a church in Hinsdale that's made a parsonage available that's helped us. We have people in Downers Grove. We have people in Westmont. Last week, someone was asking me about church connections in Woodridge for us to house there. We have worked in West Chicago and Aurora. So anywhere we can find affordable housing and a space available is really where we're going. And so that's put us very decentralized in our work. Yeah.
Could you, this is an impossible question, but can you try to help us understand what the experience of being a refugee might be like?
Yeah, this is always why I feel like I shouldn't be the one doing this, because I can't say that I know the world of someone who's lost everything. But let me just try to give you some image and words. When there's credible threat to the life of you and your family, you're really willing to do anything and leave everything to try to start over life again. So that means people who really have stories of displacement that has really happened suddenly, that's taken them out of where they are, has caused them to live in temporary spaces to try to find some way to start life over. With Ukraine, there's still a hope that they could go back to their homeland, but we don't know yet what that end of the story looks like. I would say when you've lost everything and you're starting all over, there's grief and there's trauma from those losses. I know one person that I had worked with that basically escaped out of the country, lost his father. As they were leaving the country, he passed away and they had to just bury him in the sand and keep going to try to get to safety. And I'm not trying to, make these greater than what they are. These are real life stories of people. With that grief and trauma, there's also a lot of culture shock and need for adjustment. And that's why we really try to work with churches and community groups that can help them through that adjustment. But one of the things that comes out of that, which is amazing to us, is really the resiliency of the people that we serve. The rates of entrepreneurship and businesses started by them are higher than the average American. And a real can-do attitude of trying to do things to help their family be in a better place. I think the only other emotion that I would add into this is really that it's a very humbling experience. If you've in one place been really at the top of your game and all of a sudden now you're working an assembly line doing graveyard shift at a plant, packing things, that's quite a change for someone who was a chief of surgery from the Congo, like one of the men that we received, or people that have come from really wonderful kinds of career that have had to start life over. So hope that helps cast. Sometimes I like to do that by video, but I hope I've done it some justice with my words. Yeah.
So what are some ways that people might get involved? Like what are various ways of partnering and getting involved in serving?
Sure. I would say to you that if you're interested, there's probably a way. The way I would describe it, we use an acronym that helps to help think about it, and that word is GAPS. Can you help us fill the gaps? G standing for really giving. You might collect things that help us get those houses furnished, or collect some kind of special offering or gift cards that help us kind of get things moving. Advocacy, by really learning about the needs of those we serve. We do a monthly virtual event called a Here to Welcome that you can join during your lunchtime and brown bag with us and hear a little bit about what's happening this month. We also do a call to action video that goes out every month that a link could be sent to you in some way to know, and maybe through the church's newsletter you might have that made available to folks. So that's the A of advocacy. Third, pray. We really need people who would pray for this work. You would not believe the challenges we've been through over these past 5 years. One of our partner, well, not partner, but one of the other agencies that resettles in this area is Lutheran Social Services. And during the past few years, they had laid off 700 workers just because there were so few people coming into the country through resettlement. And so your prayers really have sustained us, and the generosity of God's people. As a church-based organization, the churches have really prayed and helped. And then the final area is really serving, and that's the obvious, but I would say there are one-time opportunities and there are ongoing opportunities for you as an individual or you as a group to be involved. Some of those one-time opportunities might be just helping pick up someone at the airport, very practically, or helping set up an apartment. Let's be as mundane as we can be here. Ongoing kinds of ways might be that you become a good neighbor team. So you as a small group say, we're going to adopt this family and really try to get to know them. Now we're providing those vital services, so we're not asking you to do everything, but we really are asking you to build a relationship with them. You could do that as a family or as a group, friendship partners or good neighbor teams as we call them. So those are really some examples of ways that you might as a one-time be involved with us or maybe in some kind of ongoing way.
And the last question, if someone's here today and they're saying, I want to get involved, I want to sign up, how do they do that? What's the process like of starting to get involved with this?
Yeah, it's maybe start with a one-stop site, but I would say before you do anything, pray. God has a way of making things really clear to us, and I would not be working with World Relief after 35 years of area ministry with churches had God not shown me that this was something that I could really do to make a difference with some people who've lost everything and are starting life over. So pray. But if you want to go to a site to really do that, it's just worldrelief.org, and then you can do /Chicagoland, because we have multiple offices that would get you to our Chicagoland site, worldrelief.org/Chicagoland, and there you can find volunteer opportunities, you can find ways that you could give, ways that you can serve, ways that you might consider if you're a student being an intern with us. We have probably 20 to 30 interns who help us each year in the work that we do. Maybe you want to pick up some part-time work. We need a lot of help with part-time work. And finally, you may be thinking, I'd love to consider a career change. And we have opportunities for people to really take on career work with us, really assisting in meaningful ministry that has a lasting impact for generations on families. It's amazing to me when I see how people that have come our way within a generation or two, how they're thriving and how they're giving back, many of them on our staff, but also people who give generously and are really begun life again and done well in that. And it's such a blessing to do that. And I think you would find joy anyway, whether it's volunteering, interning, part-time or full-time kinds of work.
Great. Thanks, Keith.
You're welcome.